Where is Mei Xin? From the very first moments of Devotion, this is the thought that continually races through the player's mind as our protagonist, Du Fengyu, opens his eyes into what will become an ever-descending personal nightmare. Like Red Candle Game's predecessor, Detention, this is a slow, dark, and psychologically disturbing journey that will eventually reveal the tragedies of the character's past. Devotion shows Red Candle Games growing as one of the most innovative and talented horror developers in the industry, uniquely demonstrating specific Taiwanese culture sensibilities rarely shown in the vast majority of games. At its best, Devotion fully lives up to its name, revealing over a shattered set of memories how important devotion can be, between a husband and wife, parent and child, work and talent. As we dive deeper though, Devotion doesn't shy away from the idea that becoming too devoted to the wrong things will cause us to overlook the impact that has on the fragile structure of our everyday lives. By the game's end, Du Fengyu's hindsight shows us a dangerous type of devotion that causes him to create growing fractures and cracks in his life that will inevitably become his own downfall. Similar to their previous horror outing, Devotion follows a character struggling in a state of limbo to uncover the bleak secrets associated with their past. Unlike the side-scrolling Detention though, Devotion takes much more direct cues from Hideo Kojima's cancelled PT, switching to a first-person perspective that focuses more on exploration and puzzle solving than enemy confrontation and avoidance. For the vast majority of the game, you'll be confined to the claustrophobic and intimate apartment of troubled screenwriter Du Fengyu. While initially this may sound dull, the ways that the protagonist's mind rebuilds the apartment building transforms his memories from what may have been remembered as sweet to something much more sinister. As the game gets going, you'll enter his apartment from several different years in his life, and see it change through different life stages. These points will represent key memories for him, his wife, and his daughter. One memory will have you moving into the apartment for the first time, while another is the night of a typhoon. These locations start out normal, but as the player contextualizes events further, they alter themselves, changing in frightening and disturbing ways. Mannequins follow the player just out of their periphery in one, and celebratory lights turn to glaring eyeballs in another. These parts don't just flesh out the story of our protagonist Du Fengyu and his wife, but also his daughter Mei Xin, as scenes are oftentimes seen through vignettes from her perspective. This perspective alteration illuminates the important difference people may remember from the same events, and how it can deeply affect them over time. Puzzles throughout are never particularly difficult. Typically they'll amount to finding an object in the apartment at one point in time, and taking it to another to reveal more of the story. That story, as well as the changes it has on the apartment, are definitely some of Devotion's high points. While the puzzles are never challenging, solving them by taking important objects from one point in time to another out of chronological order gives a unique sense of exploration and reward. For example, a code for a locked closet can be found on a blurry picture, but in order to see the puzzle's solution, you'll need to relive a memory with a camera in the apartment from a different point in time. These scenes shown out of order chronologically, as well as documents found throughout while progressing, highlight a difficult family story of overbearing parents, a shattering marriage, a struggling career, and the good intentions these start off as turning out for the worse for many people's lives. The story throughout delivers and culminates in something completely chilling. However, not everything about the horror of the game particularly works. For better or worse, some jump scares are used, though they're few and far between. One particular segment has you running from an enemy through a labyrinth of doors, and felt completely out of place with the slow atmospheric horror the rest of the game is doing so well. Beyond these points though, Devotion is always trying something new. It constantly shifts from idea to idea, and while most are not mechanically diverse outside showing the story in new ways, it always keeps you on your toes to see what the next piece will be. The best of these highlight the height of the team's talents, at one point even revisiting a side-scrolling segment reminiscent of their previous work. The most disappointing thing may actually be that Devotion ends almost too soon, when it really feels like it's just starting to get going. There are many psychological horror games that have taken inspiration from the likes of PT and Silent Hill, but there aren't many games like Devotion. It's a game that wants to simultaneously show you the darkest side of the protagonist, and also sympathetically allow you to be in many of their shoes to understand how the worst they've done was completely invisible to them. There are many games that tackle psychological horror, but few games and few developers have left me thinking so deeply about a project days after I watched the credits roll. Devotion has extremely serious, sometimes intensely bleak and dark subject matter, but also manages to tell a completely sympathetic story without pulling its punches. Not all of its ideas work, and the game also suffers from some technical hitches that causes it to pause every time you enter a new area. But at its best, even in a short time, Devotion shows you how much we need true psychological horror stories in video games, as well as stories that showcase specific cultures, ideas, and attitudes. Like Detention before it, Devotion can bring up the best thoughts of playing Silent Hill for the first time, shocking you, confusing you, but in the end revealing disturbing truth in a way that is despondent, chilling, and grimly pitying. Could that devotion you've shown for what you love the most actually be invisibly causing everything you care most about to crumble around you?